Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the High Ticket Coaching and Consultant Strategy and Growth Show. Now, if you're watching the show anywhere else but within our private community called High Ticket Client Attraction Insider Circle, be sure to come join us. We'd definitely love to have you. We've grown to about maybe 6,200 members at the moment. So if you're not a part of it, definitely come check us out. And also, if you'd like to be featured on this show as well too, so if you're maybe a coach, consultant, service provider, would like to be featured on this show, then be sure to come join our community and just let us know. Just leave a post in the Facebook group or in the LinkedIn group, just letting us know that you want to be featured, and we'll see what we can do to get you on here. But with today, I want to introduce you to one of our community members, Daphne Horowitz. Hey, Daphne, hey, welcome.
Hi, Extus. Good to be here today.
Awesome. Love it. Love it. And Daphne, she's a CEO, coach, and a trusted advisor. So she's a trusted advisor to CEOs and different individuals. Now, tell us, Daphne, how did you get, well, before we even get into how you guys started, tell us, what do you do?
So what I do is I work with talented people, talented professionals. So you know how it is when someone, maybe goes to university, gets a degree in engineering, accounting, or is an actuary. I'm an actuary by profession from before, and you become very specialized in your field. You become an expert in your area of expertise. I mentioned only 3 career options or professions, but there are many more, of course. And as you get better and better at what you do, you get promoted through the ranks of an organization, or you decide at some point to go out and start your own business. And what happens is you're so good at what you do, you're such an expert in your particular field, that when it comes to leading a business or leading a team and getting results through others, it becomes a little bit more challenging. And that's where these experts sometimes come unstuck. So for experts that have leadership skills that come naturally to them, it's great. But I would say that those are the minority. Most experts do tend to struggle a little bit when it comes to leading people, leading themselves, observing their blind spots, and then, of course, leading the business or founding their business or whatever it is. And that's where I step in, because I work with these experts to really fine-tune their leadership skills so that they can take their business, their team, and themselves to that next level of success.
Mm-hmm. Love it. So ultimately, you're saying that with experts, with individuals who are just really good at what they do, they get started, they get this thing going, but it's based on an individual type of, they just perform up to their own skill level, versus there comes a point when...
Right, and they can take their skill level to the net. They're really good. They're top performers in their fields. They're often the go-to person when someone needs that piece of advice that is going to really, show that they're experts in their field. So, whether it's a lawyer or a legal expert who was always used to working within the company's legal and governance division, they're really good at that. But what happens when they want to leave and start their own legal firm? Or what happens if they get promoted to CEO level? Then it's a different skill set that's required in order to run that division or that business.
Mm-hmm. And that's when you come in.
That's when I come in. Yep.
Yeah,
So
awesome.
It's talented super achievers who need to fine tune a new skill set in order to lead a business.
Mm-hmm. Okay, awesome. Now, how did you get started down this path?
Yeah, so I suppose that we always work in the area that we need to learn most. And I started on the path of this professional expert career. So I qualified as an actuary, which is highly specialized. I don't know if you know, actuaries are...
What is an archery?
Yeah. So I think Americans would say it's actuary, and British and South African, I'm originally from South Africa, we call it an actuary. It's that person who does all the back office calculations about risks and trends. And in fact, that many of my clients are actuaries, and they're doing a lot of the projections around the coronavirus situation, trends and forecasting of where things are going to go. So you'll often find them in healthcare, pension funds, insurance companies, because there's a lot of risk associated, and you need to be able to quantify that risk in order to price a product, develop a product or insurance product, pension product that will provide that kind of coverage for people. So those are the actuaries, and often very, very technical, very mathematical. I won't say lacking personality, because here I am, but they really are super intelligent, super achievers. They often they go very, very far in their careers. And then that's what happens in any expertise area or area of expertise. You get promoted, and now all of a sudden you need another skill set. So I qualified as an actuary, but for me, the journey was a little bit different, because I felt that while I loved the challenge and the stimulation of the analyses and trends and the way of thinking, I missed that people connection. Firstly, having a role model or a leader that I looked up to, that I could say, yeah, I want to be like that one day. And at the same time, having a leader who would look at me and say, well, who are you as a person? Where do you want to go? What is your purpose? What do you really want to achieve in this world? And not be focused on those performance metrics that many organizations are focused on, forgetting who their people are and who, like, that human element of the people that come to work every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is so powerful, so powerful. I think one thing you mentioned as far as or you said as far as with your own journey as well too, you get to the point where you feel like you need connection, you need to progress. And something you said, which is when you get promoted, right? So you might be in a certain field or something, and you're doing really great. But then once you get to the next level, which is, okay, I'm here, I'm really performing at a high level here. But when you get to the next level where there's uncertainty, you're not as certain anymore because there's new skills that need to be developed, right? So
Yeah,
how do you
exactly.
help someone? How does your process work? How do you help someone in those types of situations?
Yeah, so I think that first of all, I would like to take a step back, if I may, and say that there are two really key principles in this whole dynamic. And one is that being good at something doesn't mean that you have a passion for it. So that's kind of the first step of the process, is really being able to identify passion and purpose around what it is that you do. And it doesn't matter what field of expertise or what profession you come from, if you can link that to a sense of passion and purpose, the whole thing of starting with why and discovering our why, then you can get way further ahead in your career than if you're just kind of going the way you're meant to go because that's what's expected, or that's what your career path is that was planned out for you. And then the second part of this learning for me was that just because you're an expert in a particular field, it doesn't make you a really good leader. It doesn't make you automatically become that leader that people want to follow. And this is something else that's critical for success. If you are, the higher up you go, if you're starting your own business, is that you need to understand what those leadership skills and qualities are so that you can build and develop them within yourself in order to run a business or run a division or get that promotion.
Mm-hmm.
So the first part, as I said, is working about passion, purpose, linking it to who you are. And the second part is really understanding some critical skills, learning skills around leading people, developing people, having that care and empathy for people, emotional intelligence, and also leading your business. What does it mean to think bigger picture, set a career path for people, set a direction for the business, and help people follow in that direction so that they become so engaged that they want to be part of your team and create this business that you're trying to create.
Mm-hmm. Love that. And one thing you just said as far as what is this good versus, just because you're good at something doesn't mean that you're passionate about it, right?
You have just
Yeah,
because you're
yeah.
good at it doesn't mean that you have the passion for it. And that's something I discovered for myself because I was good in my career as an actuary. I did really well. I got promoted. I got headhunted by one of the biggest consulting firms in Johannesburg at the time. And I just didn't find that I had a passion for it. I didn't find that it really spoke to who I am and my sense of purpose in this world. And that's when I went on my own journey of discovery to find what is that career that is going to really give me that sense of purpose.
Yeah.
And then that's where I landed up with coaching and being that kind of trusted advisor to CEOs and senior executives. People in those kind of levels of leadership also don't really have anyone that they can trust to really share their innermost feelings, their innermost dilemmas around decisions that they have to make or conflicts that they face, or some of the ambiguities around being a leader. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of the trusted space that they can really be in and get benefit from. So kind of
Yeah.
I serve that role, and I absolutely love it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so powerful as far as finding that purpose. So how did it happen for you? Because I've interviewed quite a few different guests, and they all share their story as far as when they got to the point where they realized that they did what they did and it was good, but now it's like it's just not fulfilling anymore. They
Yeah.
were after a path on whether they just didn't feel like they were contributing enough, or they didn't feel like they were giving back or serving in some way. So how did your process go for you? Because when you first started on your journey, before you decided to become a coach or consultant, how did that progress go to the point where you said, okay, how long did you stay there to the point you said, okay, this is just not for me, I got to make a switch? How long did that
Yeah.
take?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. And everybody meets that point at a different time in their career or in their life. And for me, it was really, I always had that sense of something doesn't feel that purposeful or fulfilling for me throughout my career. I chose a very challenging career. There's a lot of hoops you have to kind of go through in order to qualify as an actuary, but it's a very sought after job, also very male dominated field. So when I qualified as an actuary, I was one of 5 women in South Africa at the time to get this qualification. And so for me, that challenge of achievement was fantastic and something that kept me going for a long time. And then being in a very sought after career, it was difficult to get out of it. So I started to have some disquiet around, but this doesn't feel very purposeful. It doesn't feel like my area of passion. I love the stimulation, but I think there's something more. I want to work with people. I want to look at a culture of an organization and see how we can do leadership better. And yet I had no idea what I wanted to do or what my next step would be. And every time I tried to venture out and try something new or look at different careers, I kept on being put right back in that actuary box because there were so few women actuaries at the time, even actuaries as a whole, very sought after kind of expertise. And eventually for me, it came to a point where I just decided that I needed a change and I needed to step out of my career in order to examine it from a very objective point of view. So actually, it came along at the time of I'd just given birth to my 3rd child. I'd had some major complications in that birth experience. So it was a good time for me to pause and reflect and say, you know what, I'm going to take a year off to examine my next steps in terms of my career and making it really meaningful. And that's what I did. I decided to take a year off. Fortunately, I could. And I started to examine what else do I want to do. I kind of went with a completely clean slate. And then coaching came into my space. And the first coaching course I did, I felt like I was on purpose and on fire. And I knew this was the path that I wanted to pursue. And I also knew that I wanted to come back and make a difference in the organizational, in the corporate and business environment, because that's where I felt there was a real gap between how people were showing up as leaders and the work that they were actually doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought I could help.
Yeah, I love it. Now, did you ever think back about when you made the shift, right? So you took that year off, and then you found coaching. Did you ever think back in terms of wanting to revert back to what you did, which was going back to being an archer and stuff like that, or is it just like
No,
I found it?
never.
This is in the rearview mirror.
Yeah, people often ask me the question, would you go back? Is there a chance that you'd want to go back into that career? And I say, absolutely not. A lot of my clients are actuaries. I love working with actuaries and similarly engineers, accountants, lawyers, as I said. So I work with a lot of those professionals. And I love being that advisor, that external coach to these people to help them build that extra layer of meaning and purpose and people leadership and thought leadership, because that excites me.
Mm-hmm.
So I love working with actuaries, but I don't really want to go back into that field. That's the truth of it.
Yeah, yeah. So what do you think makes a good coach in terms of being able to help someone else? Just like with what you do, where you're seen as a trusted advisor, as a CEO's coach. What do you think makes a good coach?
Wow. What makes a good coach? I think that number one, and it's almost obvious to say, but number one, you've got to get out of your own way. So for me, an interesting transition in this whole process has been, as an actuary, you are the expert. You are the person that people go to when they have a question on whatever it is, risk assessments, products, whatever it is, insurance products, pension products. People will come to you and you need to give an answer. Whereas as a coach, you need to get out of your own way in terms of that area of expertise. So it's really holding back and not saying what you think. I've seen a lot of coaches who tread a very fine line between actually coaching someone or basically teaching someone. saying, I have knowledge, I have experience, and I'm going to tell you what it is. Now, I do think that it's a very nuanced area. There's, in the purest form, coaching is never giving advice, never consulting, never putting on that hat of, I have some experience, let me share it. But I think that in the business world, and certainly at the level that I work, there's a combination. But you've got to be very careful, because you could very easily, as a previous expert, fall into the trap of just wanting to share your expertise and tell people what to do and what you think. And you've got to be very in tune with yourself to know when are you stepping over that line, because the best and biggest value we can give to our clients is to explore their own thinking, to kind of mess in their heads and say, what's going on for you? Challenge that thought, give a different perspective, have them look at their own situation differently. And when you do that with skill as a coach, you get the most unbelievable results that really stick. If you're just going to come as a coach and say, here's what I think, here's a perspective. And sometimes, you may be right. As coaches, we see things that our clients can't see. We see their blind spots. We have a lot of experience of working with people, but you can't just give it to them at the outset. You've got to work your way into them discovering it for themselves. So I think that's one of the greatest skills that makes a good coach.
Yeah. And when would someone need your services? Like, what's the point where a typical client would say, okay, now I need what they would need what you have to offer? Well, what points are you finding?
It's a very good question, because I think that at that level, people find it very hard to ask for help. So they could be struggling, they could see that they have areas of difficulty, but these are super performers. They are used to getting results, they are used to battling things out themselves. So to actually reach out and say, I want to work with someone, I want someone to partner with me so that I can take my thinking and my performance to the next level, is sometimes very hard for them to see. So when would someone call me in? Is when they actually are getting feedback from their environment that they're brilliant at what they do, but they need to improve their people skills, that they have some blind spots in terms of their habits and behaviors that they're just not noticing. So if people are saying to them, you don't listen, you come across as arrogant, you don't know how to lead your team, you're micromanaging, you are not listening enough. Whenever they get certain elements of feedback that make them feel uncomfortable, that's a time to reach out. And if they really want to take their business and performance and their team to the next level, to that leap where they think that it would help them to partner, to have a thinking partner with them, that's a time to reach out as well. Because yes, you can perform and you can achieve great things on your own, but when you do it with someone who's going to challenge you and partner with you, to push you that little bit further, to challenge your thinking, to help you get the most out of your team and your people, you can go to places that you wouldn't have imagined before. And I always say every single person needs their A team around them. So whether it's a strategic advisor or a personal trainer or a nutritionist to keep all your various elements of your life on top of things. Same thing with a coach. If you want to have that mental agility and toughness and emotional intelligence and resilience to really weather some great, interesting storms, that's when you need a coach with you.
Yeah, that's so true. I know, and when I think about life today, because I realize that we're all good at something, right? So we all have an area that we're the best at, and there are certain things that we understand and we are good at, but we're just not experts at it, right? So it's always best, I believe, at least to stay in your zone of genius. But when it comes to any of the topics, find the experts, find the advisors, find the people you could surround yourself with. That'll ultimately help guide you on that journey in a sense, right?
Right. So it's interesting because what was the name of that? What's his name? Lewis Hugh, I think. No. Mm-hmm. Who swam 1 kilometer in the North Pole? Have I got his name right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm not sure. I haven't heard.
Well, he's a swimmer in extreme situations, and he swam in the freezing cold in the North Pole for a full kilometer, set a world record, and all of that. I went to hear a talk of his, incredibly inspiring person. But he has worked on himself to be able to weather that kind of weather and swim a certain distance. But at the same time, he had a team of about 40 people with him in order to be able to make that happen. He needed to do the training to get there. He needed to swim that 1 kilometer, but he needed 40 other people to help him actually make it happen. And it's the same with any powerful CEO, business owner who really wants to make it to a level of performance that is not just average, that is way beyond average, that is extraordinary, that's when you need a team of people around you. And one of them is absolutely your coach, trusted advisor, someone who can partner with you to get your mindset right and help you lead in a way that's going to get extraordinary results for your business.
Mm-hmm. Love that. Love that. Now, what about a couple of questions I like to ask is in terms of skills wise, right? So over the years, so where you've gone to yourself for building your business, the success you've created, what one skill you would say has gotten you to where you are today?
Perseverance, never giving up, not letting the highs and lows of being a business owner get to you in any way. So keeping your eye on the prize, and yeah, I'm just good at doing that.
Yeah, perseverance.
Keeping your eye on the prize and going for it.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true. Entrepreneurship is one of those places where I think a previous guest I was interviewing is one of the places where you have to realize a lot of what you do, you might put yourself out there and a lot of it doesn't work. But I think
Yeah.
Winston Churchill was the one who said, like success is going from failure to failure without any loss of enthusiasm, right? Which I
Exactly.
believe that that's definitely
Exactly.
what it takes to be an entrepreneur in today's day and age. Like you have to be able to know that,
Absolutely.
hey, the goods, when they were good, they were good, but when they're bad, they could be pretty bad. But knowing that it's always going to be better.
100%.
Um,
So I climbed Kilimanjaro 5 years ago, and I just really think there's a strong analogy between mountain climbing and leadership, leading a business.
mhm,
And I actually wrote a book about it, I'll just mention. But um, when I climbed Kilimanjaro, it really was one of the toughest things that I took on for myself. I'm not particularly sporty. I had to do the training and whatever to get there. And it was every day, it was really, really tough. But I knew why I was doing it. I knew what my goal was, and it was just about taking that step every single day, one more step, one more step, one more step to get there. And I think that's very much the journey of leadership, of leading a business and getting to achieve the goals that you want to achieve in your life.
yeah, yeah. What's the name of your book?
It's called Courage to Lead,
Mhm,
Leadership Lessons from Kilimanjaro.
mhm. Okay, and
Yeah.
that what's the premise is all the, well, I guess lessons you learned from.
Exactly, exactly. So the way I wrote it also is it's a very light, easy read, but every chapter tells a story from my mountain climb and
Mhm,
then draws some kind of a leadership lesson from it. When I climbed, I really became, I didn't know I was going to write this book before I climbed. But as I was climbing, these metaphors between every day on this mountain and really working with leaders just came together, and I felt that I wanted to write a book about it, and that's what I did.
yeah, love it. And what about are you pretty big into reading books, audio,
Huge
podcasts?
reader. I'm
Yeah.
a huge reader.
What do you say was one book that's really had a great impact on just your life, your business, and stuff like that? What's the one you'd
Wow.
recommend?
There are so many. There are so many books. What's one I'd recommend? Well, look, I think one that's really, I suppose, top of my list and very relevant to my work is the book Start With Why by Simon Sinek.
Mm-hmm,
I really started my business. I went into coaching because I wanted to be driven by a career that fueled my sense of purpose and my why. And from that, I've been working with leaders and businesses on discovering their own why, their own purpose all these years. And I think what Simon Sinek has done, and he's just wonderful, that he's taken this concept of purpose-driven leadership and purpose-driven business and created a very simple way to understand it. And he's really brought it to the masses. So I love that book, and I often recommend it as an incredible read for anybody who wants to connect kind of who they are in their very most inner place to the work that they do out in the world.
yeah, yeah, awesome. And what's the final question? What's one habit you've developed that's gotten you to your level of success today?
Ah, habit. That's such a good question, because I think that success is built on success habits. So you've got to be very aware of your habits. So I will say, though, that I'm a person that's very difficult for me to get into habits, and I do fall off the wagon.
Mm-hmm,
But I think something that's really helped me in my career, in my life, is to keep a habit of regular exercise. So I'm a runner, and actually that only started since I decided to climb Kilimanjaro. to train for my climb, I took out up running. And this is something that really helps me when I've had a tough day. I just put on my running shoes and go out and run. And it helps me to keep a healthy mind, gain perspective, stay in shape. And so I think that's a habit that really points to also a holistic way of looking at things. We want to be able to look after our whole selves. It's not just about the work that we do. It's not just about who we lead. It's how we look after ourselves, how we maintain connections, how we keep a healthy body, and really live the life that we want.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's one habit that comes to mind now. But a second one, I suppose, which is really a habit of making meaningful connections with people around me, something I really love to do. So yeah, so that's a little bit on habits. I haven't thought of that question specifically, but yeah,
Yes,
that's
yes.
what I would say.
Love it, love it. That is so fascinating. Cool. So the next question, or the final question, really becomes if someone wanted to reach out, what's the best way for them to connect?
So just I'm active and visible on the social media channels. So particularly LinkedIn is very strong for me. My website on daphnahorovitz.com. I've got a YouTube channel where I do a leadership live every single week on leading in crisis at the moment with the whole COVID situation, but that will continue on various topics of leadership. I like to make leadership practical. It's not a theoretical concept out there, something that we can actually philosophize about it and find all theories and models. But I believe in leadership being practical, something you can learn, something you can apply every single day. And that's what I talk about on my YouTube channel as well. So yeah, website, YouTube, LinkedIn, those are the places to find me.
Awesome. Love it, Daphne. Well,
and
hey,
also
guys.
there's a free chapter of my book on Office. On my website, if you go on, you can download a free chapter of my book, Courage to Lead, the Kilimanjaro
Love it.
one.
Yeah, awesome. And guys, all the links Daphne just shared with us here today, they will be either above or below this video. So if you'd like to connect, be sure to click on those links, connect with her, check out her book as well too. Check out her YouTube channel, definitely connect. So Daphne, hey, thank you so much for making the time to be here today. Do you have any final thoughts
Thank you,
before we
Extus.
end here?
Just, I think everybody to kind of check in with themselves in the period of time that we're in at the moment. I know there's a lot of anxiety and stress, and just make sure to do the things that take care of you, that feed your soul, your energy, stay safe, stay healthy. And it was really a pleasure to talk with you, Extus. Thank you for inviting me on.
Definitely. It's been a pleasure having you here and sharing your knowledge with the audience. Really appreciate it. And we will be in touch, okay?
Thank you.